Hello everyone, welcome back to our channel Arunodayam's Biology. Today we are going to learn about how nutrition takes place in case of human beings from Life Processes chapter from class 10 Biology. Nutrition in case of human beings. So far we have learned how nutrition takes place in case of plants, isn't it? Autotrophic nutrition. How nutrition takes place in case of plants, that means how photosynthesis process takes place in case of plants we have learned, and we have also learned how nutrition takes place in case of unicellular organisms like amoeba and paramecium, isn't it? Their body is very simple. They do not contain any special digestive system. That's why nutrition in them is very simple. But in case of multicellular organisms like us, the digestion is very complex. Why? Because we have so many cells in our body. So these cells forms different type of organs which facilitates the process of nutrition. Okay, in case of multicellular organisms, the digestion process is somewhat complex in nature. In case of human beings, the digestive system is present in the form of a long tube-like structure. Observe here, it is present in the form of a long tube-like structure which starts from mouth and ends with the anus. Okay, in between this long tube is modified into different organs, which indicates that different types of enzymes are present in them, and nutrition is quite different in different parts of this digestive system. Okay okay in case of human beings, the digestive system is present in the form of a long tube. Now this long tube is called as alimentary canal, or it is also called as gut, or it is also called as a digestive tract. Alimentary canal, gut, or digestive tract. So it contains so many organs which facilitates a different type of digestive juices and enzymes to act on food materials. Okay, let us see how nutrition takes place in case of human beings. That means what happens when the food enters into our body. So obviously we will take food material through our mouth into this alimentary canal. So in this alimentary canal, the food gets digested. Undigested food materials will come out of the body through this last part of tract called as anus. So let us see what happens in between mouth and anus. Generally we will take different type of food materials, isn't it? We will take we will take carbohydrates, proteins, vitamins, minerals, fiber containing food materials, isn't it? Fat containing food materials. So all of them has to pass through the same digestive tract, isn't it? So we will take different type of food materials. All of them has to pass through the same digestive tract, and different textured food we will take. Some might be in solid state, some might be in liquid state, and some might be in semi solid state, isn't it? But all of them has to pass through this same digestive tract. So what happens here is, when we take food material into our mouth, whatever it may be, that food has to be processed into smaller particles. Okay, that food has to be processed into smaller particles, and that food has to change into same texture. So this is achieved in our mouth. Actually, when we take food into our mouth, the space present in the mouth is called as oral cavity or buccal cavity. This oral cavity contains 32 teeth. Which are grouped into four. That means we have four types of teeth. We have four sets of teeth in our mouth: incisors, canines, premolars, molars, like that. Different types of four sets of teeth are present in our mouth. That means 32 teeth are present in our mouth, and we have a muscular tongue also. Muscular tongue. A bony plate-like structure called palate is also present here. All of them are present in our oral cavity. Okay, all of them are present in our oral cavity. So what happens here is, when we take food into our mouth, these 32 teeth will help in chewing the food material into smaller particles. These 32 teeth will help in cutting and chewing the food into smaller particles. This process is called as mastication. Cutting and tearing the food material into smaller particles is called as mastication. So the teeth will masticate the food. Okay, and for this process, this muscular tongue is used here. Along with the teeth, the muscular tongue is also helping here. How this muscular tongue will help in pushing the food materials towards our teeth while mastication, isn't it? So when we are chewing food material in our mouth, our tongue will use it to push the food towards the teeth for making the process more fast, isn't it? So here, with the help of our teeth and tongue, we will masticate the food into smaller particles. Next is changing the texture of the food material. So here what happens is, if we look at the food material which we like the most, usually our mouth waters, isn't it? Mouth waters, mouth watering takes place. Why? Because our mouth contains three pairs of salivary glands actually. Our mouth contains three pairs of salivary glands. They will release some watery substance into the oral cavity called as a saliva. They will release some watery substance into mouth is called as a saliva, and this saliva will mix with these smaller particles of food material and turns the food smooth, soft and slippery. Did you understand? This saliva mixed with the smaller particles of the food which is masticated by teeth into smooth, soft and slippery substance. Okay, then the food will easily get slipped into the next part of our digestive tract. Actually, the inner linings of the all the organs of our digestive tract are lined with mucus. The inner walls of all the organs of our digestive tract are lined with mucus, a slippery substance which is useful for making the movement of food easy. Okay, so along with this mucus, our mouth contains a saliva also, which makes the food slippery, smooth. Okay. In addition to that, saliva also contains some biological catalyst called as a salivary amylase. So saliva contains an enzyme called as salivary amylase, which will help in the digestion of food in the mouth itself. Actually, most of us think that digestion starts in the stomach of our body, but no, actually digestion starts in the mouth itself with the help of a salivary amylase present in saliva. Okay, this salivary amylase, which is also called as ptyalin, acts on carbohydrates present in our food material and turns them into maltose and dextrose. That means they will digest carbohydrates into simpler forms. That means maltose and dextrose. That means carbohydrate digestion starts in the mouth itself. That means some amount of food gets digested here. After that, the food will enter into the next part of our digestive tract. That is what happens in our mouth. So whenever we take food into our mouth, the teeth, tongue will help in chewing the food material into smaller particles. That process is called as mastication. Okay. During mastication, saliva is also released, which help in the digestion of carbohydrates. Okay. Next, the food will enter into the next part of our digestive tract called as esophagus. So after carbohydrate digestion, the food from mouth enters into next part called as esophagus. Fine, okay. But here we have to remember one thing, that it is necessary to move the food in a regulated manner all along the digestive tract. So all along the alimentary canal, all along the digestive tract, the food has to move in a regulated manner. Okay, so for this purpose, the inner walls of all these organs contain some muscles which contract rhythmically and pushes the food like a wave. Did you understand? So the walls of all these organs, that means esophagus, stomach, intestine, so all these organs contains muscles which contract rhythmically and pushes the food forward just like a wave. So the food moves in the alimentary canal like a wave. So wave like movement is produced here. This movement is also called as peristaltic movement. Peristaltic movement. So this peristaltic movement helps in pushing the food material slowly in forward direction. Slowly in a forward direction. So this process is called as a peristalsis, which is attained by the walls present in the inner walls of different organs of digestive tract. So here also by peristaltic movement, the food from mouth enters into esophagus. Okay. Now what happens in esophagus? Nothing happens here. Actually, esophagus is a long tube-like structure. the food does not has any chance to stay here for some time. Okay, the food does not has any chance to stay here for some time. So what happens here is the food just slightly slips from esophagus into next part of digestive tract called as a stomach. Okay, so here in esophagus there are no digestive juices for digestion of any food material, and here there is no chance for storage of food material also. So what happens here is the inner walls of esophagus contracts and relaxes rhythmically and pushes the food forward. That means by peristaltic movement the food slowly passes through this esophagus and enters into next part called as a stomach. What happens to food material in a stomach? That means how food gets digested in stomach. So what happens here is whenever the food enters into stomach, actually the stomach is an elastic bag like structure. It is an elastic pouch like structure. That means it can expand when food enters into it. It can hold as much of food enter into it. It can expand based on the amount of food we have intook. So here what happens here is the stomach enlarges when we take food material into it and stores the food here for some time. The food is temporarily stored in stomach for some time. So during this process the inner walls of stomach contain some glands called as gastric glands. Gastric glands are present in the inner walls. They produces a juice called as gastric juice. Gastric juice. This juice contain hydrochloric acid and some enzymes. Hydrochloric acid and some enzymes are present in this juice, and this hydrochloric acid is useful for killing the harmful germs present in the food material. The food which we take might contain some harmful germs, isn't it? Some harmful microorganisms might be present in the food which we have ingested. So that those harmful microorganisms will be killed by the action of hydrochloric acid which is produced in stomach. In addition to this, hydrochloric acid is also useful for activating the inactive enzymes present in gastric juice. Say for example, gastric juice contain an enzyme called as pepsinogen. Pepsinogen. It is in inactive state actually. So this inactive pepsinogen does not act on the proteins of does not participate in digestion of proteins actually. Its duty is to digest proteins, but it is present in inactive states. That means it cannot digest proteins. So here what happens is the hydrochloric acid will activate that pepsinogen enzyme into pepsin. So hydrochloric acid has two functions. One is to kill the harmful germs present in the food material which we eat, and second one is to activate an inactive enzyme like a pepsinogen into pepsin. So this pepsin acts on the proteins present in the food material and converts them into peptones. That means protein digestion takes place in the stomach. Only protein digestion takes place because of the acidic nature. HCl is present here, no, that means the pH of stomach is acidic in nature. So in this acidic medium only protein digestion takes place. The food is partially digested here. Proteins are converted into peptones and the food is partially digested here. Now this food has to enter into next part of our digestive tract. This food has to pass into next part of digestive tract again by peristaltic movement. I already said no, each and every part of our digestive tract shows a peristalsis. So here also because of the muscles present in the walls of the stomach, they contracts rhythmically and pushes the food in a regulated manner to next part. That means peristalsis takes place here. The food will passes to next part slowly. And here between the stomach and the next part, that means this is duodenum actually. So between stomach and duodenum one valve is present called as pyloric valve or pyloric sphincter is present. Valve or sphincter, pyloric valve or pyloric sphincter is present. It regulates the movement of food into duodenum actually. Okay, so when this valve opens, the food is slowly in smaller quantities enters into duodenum. So that is what digestion takes place in case of stomach. So whenever food enters into stomach, gastric glands produces gastric juice which contain HCl. HCl performs two functions already I said. So the food is partially digested, then it enters into next part, that is duodenum, with the movement of muscles present in the walls of stomach and also with the movement of this valve. So that is about digestion in case of stomach and mouth. So next, we have to learn how digestion takes place in the small intestine of our digestive tract. Then after, what happens in large intestine also we have to learn. So we are going to learn it in our next video. Okay. So that is about a digestion in case of a mouth, esophagus and stomach. So we have completed how digestion takes place in case of mouth and how the digested food enters into stomach through esophagus. We have completed. So in our next video we are going to learn how digestion takes place in case of a small intestine. Okay, and what happens in large intestine and what happens to the undigested food materials. So we are going to learn about it in our next video. We are going to learn it in part 2 of this uh, particular digestive system. Okay. I hope that you understand this topic. If you have any doubts, please ask me in comment section. I will clarify you. Hope you understand this. Thank you so much for watching. Jai Hind.